We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6 and refused to leave. The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With
Safe,
the other
edgy.
guy, the man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't?
Abba and Preacher being misled here because she used that word. Here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, all right? Clip me. Get ready to clip me, okay? Here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, all right? Clip me. Get ready to clip me, okay? Wait, what's the scam?
In a place? Wait, what's the scam? What's the scam?
Is that a J-Dam? Yeah. All right, what's this?
It got me. Pull it up.
I don't know the law. Yeah, there's laws. You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are. You don't even have.
How about that? A squatter standoff. A property owner confronts a group of people she says moved into her $1 million home in Queens, and our cameras were rolling as dozens of officers showed up.
Several people were taken away in handcuffs, and one of those arrested may surprise you.
I have video of you.
Who are these people?
Figure out the situation.
Yeah, but they're in my house, man.
Relax.
No.
To understand how this day ended,
We need the police right away.
with multiple
You know how much, like, arrogance you have to be like, this is my house.
And it's not.
Like, I rent this place. I've lived here for 8 years. I don't think I'll ever say, this is my apartment.
It actually not. You're renting a space.
Yes. And I'm keenly aware of it. My landlord reminds me every once in a blue moon, hey, if you don't do something to that backyard, I may have to start an eviction notice. Like, I'm keenly aware.
But then again, these people don't. This is not the situation.
No. They're not saying. They're not even paying. The arrogance to just stand in
Ain't
front of
that wild? Ain't that crazy though?
What they do here against squatters is anti-squatters. Those are people who rent the place really cheap but can be kicked out with a week notice. You've got squatters. You've got who just told me this recently? Was this on stream or off stream? Somebody was telling me that if you want to book an appointment at like the DMV, you can actually buy appointments ahead of yours. Like the appointment, it might be like a 6-month queue, but you can buy appointments from other people that will book appointments just to sell them to other people. Was this on stream? Okay. I don't know if Dan told me this on stream or off stream. That's wild.
Yo, it got me f***ed up.
I could tell. I don't see you react normally.
911.
Yo, I was on my Facebook yesterday because while this computer was reformatting, I was just on my streaming computer. I'm like, oh, let's see what's up on the old Facebook. You want to talk about living in different fucking worlds? When I thought that people were angsty and like grumpy and sad and shit online, I always imagine this as like teenagers, basically. Teenagers are early 20-somethings for college. Go onto Twitter, they be angsty, and that's where your angst comes from online. My God, I was digging deep into my Facebook friends yesterday, looking at updates and shit. There is a lot of like 30s, 40s something, like conservative dudes that are like, just got like hit with some really bad stuff, guys. Like, please pray for me, or like, can anybody help? Like, oh my God, there's a whole other world of anguish out there on Facebook that is not in my ordinary bubble.
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6 and refused to leave.
What's it like being here knowing you can't go inside of your own home?
It's enraging. It really is.
In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation
Rights.
and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home. And now she's back.
Just after wrapping up our interview, a woman showed up.
What are you doing in the house? Are you renting this house?
I'm not renting this.
Why are you here?
She unlocked the front door, saw our cameras, and took off.
It's open. Let's go in the house. It's open.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
No sleeping for you tonight, apes.
She found 2 men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally.
The real meme is squatting in a house and then Airbnb-ing it. That would be the real meme.
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open.
Police started interviewing neighbors and looking for documents.
Do you have something that shows that you've been here for more than 30 days?
They took the man who told me he had been renting for 2 days out in handcuffs.
They got one out.
And
Wait, but why? I wonder what crime he broke. He must have done something, because I don't think squatting is illegal, right? That's why they have rights. Destiny, you can't steal homes. The owner didn't do shit, and after the 30 days, you can file for eviction notice, which you usually get them out and fined. Yeah, but doesn't it take, depending on where you're at, oh, trespassing for less than 30 days. Oh, he admitted to being there. He shouldn't have said shit. Don't talk to the cops, retards. He should have said he got here 31 days ago. Don't eviction proceedings take a while? How long to evict someone in California average? The eviction process can take 30 to 45 days or longer. The time starts when you have eviction court forms delivered to your tenant to the time they must move out. This is why, oh, I saw a Reddit post. I don't think I saw this on, or I don't think we talked about this on stream, but somebody soy posted on Reddit about how they were $1 short of their rent and they got an eviction notice from their apartment. I think the reason why they do this is because if you're short on any rent, they'll shoot you a notice saying they intend to evict or whatever, just because they don't want to wait at all. But if you pay the rent, they won't care. But they want to get that process started as soon as possible, because if you wait, you give them 1 or 2 months, then you start the process, then you've got to wait another 1 or 2 months, maybe you got to go to court. It's just like so much wasted time. But that's why if you're short on your rent at all, it doesn't matter if you're $1 or $1,000 off. There's probably like an automated machine that just shoots out like an eviction, a notice to evict or whatever. Yeah. But most of the time, if you, because just think about it, nobody wants to evict somebody, and you'd rather have a unit paying 80% if they can't make the payment than evict them and try to fill that unit, unless you're in a super, super, super high demand area. What is the argument for squatters' rights? I truly have no idea. I'm trying to find this video yesterday or 2 days ago that was on Reddit with like a company that, it was some guy that talked about how this is how they remove squatters. It was some guy that just came in pretending to be maintenance, and he just like takes everything. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? It was a video that went, it was on Reddit 2 days ago. Somebody will link it.
Escorted the other guy off the property.
Now you're afraid to come out.
I'm not coming out. This house is empty. This is my home. My locksmith is on the corner waiting to change my locks. And that's not fair. It's not fair that I, as the homeowner, should be having to go through this.
How you doing?
Minutes later, a locksmith showed up, but police gave her a warning before they left.
I may end up in handcuffs today if this man shows up here and says that I have illegally evicted him. I said to them, let him take me to court the way I've been told to take him to court.
Less than 10 minutes after police left and the locks were changed. The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy, police.
This guy just literally broke down my door. Broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did.
And so did you. You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Oh, shit.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. You need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue, and by law it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own the house. I don't own this.
Exactly,
Yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Proof. Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being
in my own home.
And
I will say, okay, now, I'm not normally one to say f landlords, okay? However, this must be a secondary property of hers, right? This isn't her primary residence, right? Because so when she says, I'm getting kicked out for being in my own home, this must be a second house, right? She inherited it? Okay. So when she says home, it's a house that you own. It's a property you have. Home.
Where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed
That's
is
what was
current
told
and
to her.
legal.
Arrested for
She is not a landlord. She inherited it from a deceased relative. Does it matter? It matters. Yes, it does matter. It does matter. Because when you say you're getting kicked out of your home, my feeling is that you're f***ing homeless. And I would feel really bad for you, okay? If you're getting kicked out of your house, all right, a rental property you have or a secondary property you have, I still feel bad. That's still fucked. But it's not quite the same, okay? Manic Pixie, thank you for the tier 5 subber. Never mind. I'm not gonna make that joke. It's still bad. I think it's wrong, but we don't have to exaggerate it, okay?
unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
So how does this all end then? When do you leave?
The way it ends is either she pays me my money that I put into the house, pay me the money, and I'll leave.
Okay, I'm not going to ban you guys today because for some reason I'm in a good mood, okay? Please, please, please. I want you guys to be the only fan base on the internet that understands this. I'm training you guys. I'm training you guys. I want you guys to be the only people on the entire internet, maybe in the whole world, that can understand this, okay? Repeat after me. Get ready to type in chat. Repeat after me. Repeat after me, okay? Things can be bad without them being the worst possible thing, okay? Say that. Things can be bad without them being the worst possible thing. Things can be bad without them being the worst possible thing, okay? Losing a property because people are squatting in your shit is fucked and it's horrible and that's bad. But when you say, I'm losing my home, you're losing your second home. Shut the fuck up, okay? That's all I'm saying. It's a little bullshit. It's still bad and it shouldn't be happening. Would you be cool and not upset about someone taking over the Bridges podcast studio? See, so that's an example, Zazina's Jaj. That's an example of a fucking retarded question. Because when you say, would you be cool with this bad thing? Because I said, well, this bad thing isn't the worst thing, right? It would be like somebody coming into my apartment with their hand chopped off. And they go, somebody chopped off my whole fucking arm. And I look at them and I go, motherfucker, they didn't chop your arm off, they chopped your hand off. And then you come up to me and you're like, excuse me, are you saying it's good to have your hand chopped off? Destiny, how would you feel if somebody chopped your hand off? That's not what I'm saying, okay? It's bad, but it's when somebody's just kicked out of their home, the obvious implication is that you're losing like the place that your primary place of residence, all right?
Or send me to court. Is either she pays me.
What would happen if she killed him in self-defense? Would that speed up the process of finding out who owned it? Well, he would have to attack her first. However, in a very weird, perverted twist of fate, it could be that if they got into a fight in that property, she might not have a right to kill him, but he might have a right to kill her, depending on what like the last castle doctrine bullshit is in New York is. Because if he's allowed to, not the last castle, sorry, the castle doctrine, I'm thinking of a dumb movie. The castle doctrine shit is in New York. Because if he's got a right to be there and that's his residence, he doesn't have a duty to retreat, but she would, right? So it could be that she would be at fault there. I don't know how that interaction works though, but.
My money that I put into the house, pay me the money and I'll leave. Or send me to court and we deal with the judge in court. It's that simple.
It's not that simple. It's a long process. Eviction can take close to 2 years to complete.
I'll say it, man. America's a...
Wait, but she's the owner, no? Why would she have to retreat from her property? Because it's not... There is a different treatment for primary residence and like a second or third property, right? Like if I'm like in my apartment, I'm pretty sure I can defend people to the death in my apartment. I don't have a duty to retreat just because I don't own it and I'm just renting it, right? If the landlord were to come in here and start fighting with me and we get into a scuffle, I'm pretty sure I have more of a right to it because this is my primary residence. It's not his, it's just a building he owns. It's other like it's investment property or it's different. It's got a different tax treatment. I think there's a lot of different treatments to the properties based on, like for instance, when you fill out like tax forms. Actually, for tax forms, it doesn't even matter that much. But when you're filling out like other forms, it'll ask you like, where's your primary residence? It won't say like, where do you have a piece of property at, you know?
Broken country. Yo. Because they got this issue all up and down America. And some of you guys will be like,
if she had rented it out to somebody and that person called the cops, and the cops would have most likely removed the squatters, not if they'd been there for over 30 days. I'm talking a little bit of shit right now, but my understanding is if they're there for a certain amount of time, they're basically guaranteed rights. My guess is going to be that squatting rights are probably some bastardization of, if you end up like informally renting an apartment from somebody, you pay the money, you don't actually have a lease written up, and then at one day they change their mind, like, I'm gonna kick you out, and then you're like, oh shit. Like, what squatter rights are probably there to do is to protect you from like, I was renting this, I promised, the police show up, and now you get kicked out of or arrested for trespassing, and now you're fucked, right? So squatter rights are, okay, well, hold on. We'll give them 30 days to figure this shit out. We're gonna treat this not like a trespassing scenario, but like a landlord-tenant scenario, and then go. That's probably like the Steelman version of why squatters' rights exist. However, you can see the obvious problem with a loophole here where if somebody's able to sneak into a property and stay there for some number of days, well, me, now they just basically became a tenant, and now I've got to go through a court eviction process, and I can't just call the cops and kick them out. It's probably basically related to this, yeah. They're not really squatter rights. They're probably like informal tenant-landlord rights, basically. In your state, do you have the right to shoot if someone were to break in? Hopefully. I should look that up, huh? Florida, castle, doctrine. Residents may use force, including deadly force, to protect their castle. This is my castle. How often are people sneaking into properties? Depending upon which city you're in, I think it happens, unfortunately, a lot. I'm saying a lot with no qualification. It happens enough that there are businesses of people that try to kick out squatters. Let me put it that way.
like, well, not in my state, and it is possible. Like I said, that in some states it's not. I've heard of something called squatter hunters.
Oh, yeah, he's bringing it up.
There's like people whose job it is to get rid of squatters. And I'll be honest with you, me personally, like, I'm so over this kind of shit. I'm like, put him in front of a firing squad.
Oh my.
Put him in front of a firing squad. It is already hard enough to get a home. People get their homes and you just take over. Put him in front of a firing squad, my G. I don't care. I'm so sick of these leeches, bro. Remember that? Like, there's something so like, think about it. This is why I'm saying this. A home is everything. You take someone's home away. When you break in, you take away the safety of their home.
See, like, this is why I don't like her using home, because now Abba's talking about her home like this is her primary residence. It's not. This is an investment property, basically. People are saying it's an inheritance, but what's she going to do? She's either going to sell it or she's going to rent it out. Or maybe she's going to move into it. Maybe she was planning on doing that. To be fair, maybe she was planning on moving into it. But, like, it's not like her home, right?
Away their sense of home. When you do burglaries, home invasions, when you financially scam people out of a home, that's horrible, right? Like, the importance of a home in someone's life is paramount. At least for me, it's always been like that. And for my mom, she worked her whole life to get a home. To think people could just walk in, close the door, say, I've been here for months.
Doesn't matter either way. You're not allowed to steal my shit, no matter what I plan to use it for. Okay, always kush. Do you think that I agree or disagree with that statement? Let's do a quiz. Okay, always kush. Do you think that I think that you should be allowed to steal somebody's shit if you don't like what they're gonna use it for? Always kush. Can you answer that? I'm curious. I know you agree that they shouldn't be able to. Then why the fuck are you asking that question or stating that? Destiny, does it matter either way? I think it matters that we use words correctly. Yes. Couldn't this be easily settled if officers could be presented with evidence of a tenant agreement by both parties? The problem is, as soon as you start getting into like tenant agreements and shit, I don't know if cops can resolve it. I think it might, like, de jure have to go to housing court at that point. I don't think you can do it. Like, I don't know if it's in a police officer's job to like negotiate between tenants and landlords. I'm not sure if you could do that. Well, here's a question. Well, here's a question. What would happen if somebody broke into somebody's house and then somebody calls the cops, like somebody just broke in, and then the cops show up and the guy's like, actually, I live here. How does that work? They have to prove that they were there for more than 30 days? Do they have to prove it to a cop? Okay, Maya did that thing where a chatter sends you a link that's like 400 pages long and is expecting us to just read everything, so, okay. Control F, break in. That's exactly what I had to do, and the police told the squatter, tough shit, he lives here. Oh, wait, hold on. My first question I've ever asked an AI before. If you call the police on someone who's broken into your apartment in New York City, could they simply claim that they are squatting and prevent the police from removing them from your apartment? In New York, squatters' rights are recognized under the legal principle of adverse possession. A squatter is defined as someone who occupies a residential building or area of land without the permission of the owner. To establish squatter status in New York, an occupant must occupy the property without the owner's permission or consent, live on the property continuously for 10 years for properties with a record owner, or 30 years for abandoned properties, maintain the property as their primary residence, make improvements or repairs to the property, pay any property taxes owed during their occupation. If a squatter meets these conditions, they can potentially gain legal ownership of the property through adverse possession. However, simply trespassing or staying on a property briefly does not qualify. In New York City, if squatters have been living in a property for 30 days, landlords must navigate the city's eviction laws. This process can take around 2 years to complete. Damn! Before the process ends, owners cannot change the locks on the properties or remove squatters' belongings. If someone claims to be a tenant, they cannot be arrested for trespassing. Legal steps must be taken to evict them. However, property owners can evict a squatter in New York State by following a legal process which involves serving the squatters with a notice to vacate and then filing an eviction lawsuit if the squatters do not leave within the specified time frame. Please note that this information is based on the current laws and may be subject to change. It's always a good idea to consult with a legal professional if you find yourself in this situation. This doesn't really help. This is just giving me general. Maya, you fucking moron. You didn't even read this shit that you linked me, did you? If person breaks into your primary residence, can they claim to be a squatter? I'm just curious how this would work. Is it bullshit? Someone can break into your home when you're not home and claim they're living there and the police can't kick them out. Bullshit. What you described is called breaking and entering, not squatting. Breaking and entering is illegal and you'll be given no tenant or squatter's rights. Squatting is residing in an unoccupied or abandoned property, not breaking into one and claiming it's yours. If the property is occupied, the person is not squatting, they are trespassing. I guess as long as you can just prove to the officer that like, oh, well, look, I live here, then I guess they would just kick them out. What firearm do you use for home defense? The Staccato, whenever I buy it. Someday I will buy it. Jesse, you seem happy today. Normally you would lose your mind at these people. Well, I was reading all the reasons why people stopped watching Hassan yesterday, and one of the reasons is because he's salty as fuck at all of his chatter, so I'm trying to study the downfall of my opponents so that I don't run into the same issue. So trying to chill out, be nicer today. I triple dose my Vyvanse now. We're up to 180 milligrams a day. I need to be like House. Oh no, he does it in his hand first. Also, when I say that, by the way, I know that some of the Kiwi farmers like to say that I double dose my shit. I've never taken more than 60 milligrams of Vyvanse in a day. Do not ever do that. I would never recommend double dosing or triple dosing your fucking Vyvanse or whatever. Or any amphetamine you're on.
Otters are disgusting leeches, and I don't care if they get wiped off the face of the earth.
I mean double dosing your 20 milligram prescription? No, when you're looking for a certain... There's a name for this psychological phenomenon. I think it's actually the same name. It's like when you start noticing things because you've brought it up. There's a name for this. Somebody in chat will type it. But yeah, basically people will start watching me. They're like, oh, I can definitely tell this guy abuses amphetamines because he does XYZ behavior, which are things I've done for my entire life, basically, yeah. Will the drug talk ever end? Never.
The problem is the laws that are in place and our politicians that do so little to change them.
Would lethal self-defense of a property be justified in the squatting example, even if it's a second property? I don't think so. I don't know if any states have, written in law, lethal defense of property. I don't know if you can do that in any state. I'm not sure. But you can start an altercation to remove them, and that can escalate to a physical altercation in which you can kill them if it comes to that. So in de facto, it kind of works out that way. But do you think most lefties would defend squatters? Yeah, lefties will defend squatters because they hate people that have buildings that are ever empty, because they think that most of the housing crisis is caused by institutional investors like Zillow and fucking BlackRock buying houses and just sitting on them as empty things to increase in asset value over time. It's dumb. Yeah, they'd probably support it.
I understand that the cops are not there to think. They're there to apply.
And that's what they're doing. And it's not even like, yeah, I'm gonna get in shit if I don't arrest this person because I'm supposed to do my. That's crazy. It's the law that's in place that's fucked up.
And it's not just New York.
Oh, Jesus.
This happens all up and down across the states.
Mm-hmm.
It's windy.
There's people whose job it is to just get rid of these squatters. It's crazy to me. And you know how they do it? They wait for the squatter to leave the home, then they break in through one of the windows.
And they squat.
They change the locks, they get all the furniture while they're gone, and then that's what they do.
And they squat. They squat
It's not just lefties anymore. The value attainment guy parrots that shit too. He's obsessed with BlackRock. Yeah, because a lot of the conservatives and the lefties meet on the populist brain rot, where all big corporations are all corporations and everything is like all evil and bad. So yeah,
they squat the squatters out, and then yeah.
If it weren't for shitting low-income housing, there would be multitudes more homeless people than we already have. You're out of touch on this one, Destiny. Wouldn't we all be out of touch with homelessness if we all live in houses? Are you messaging me from the literal streets, Donnie, right now? Is that your opinion on your, stolen 5G phone as you message me from your tent that you live in? Fucking moron. I love you. Just kidding. Sorry.
Trespassers will be shut. Survivors will be.
Yeah, like they're mixing up a lot of things. Like you can still trespass and castle doctrine the fuck out of your primary residence. But look, see, this is what's happening. These two, Abba and Preach, are being misled here because she used that word. People are kicking me out of my home. I think they might actually think that, or did they say something different in this video? I think they might think that she's getting kicked out of like her primary residence. She might be trying to move in her kid, family member, relative. It doesn't have to specifically be her home. That's fine, but then that's not your home. That's not your home then. It's the second property that you want to move a family member into.
Look, squatters in Texas can make an adversary possession claim after possessing a property continuously for at least 10 years. Well, good luck.
It's 10 years.
Before that, it's criminal trespassing.
Good luck. You got to fight a lot of motherfuckers.
Let's go to New York. Let's see what's going on.
Keep in mind, most of the squatter stuff is like abandoned property, right? That's where it's really big. Like if you ever see, I'm making this up now. Hold on. I've heard this, but I haven't watched these channels. Are there ever people that do like urban exploring on abandoned buildings in YouTube? I imagine these people must run into squatters sometimes, right? Because I think that's where a lot of the squatting people, she said she was going to sell it, ban that chatter. Oh, well.
New York was it 30 days?
30 days.
30 days.
How long do you think it would take you to kick Nathan and his mom out of your house? That'd be funny if she tried to claim squatting on that. That would be fucking... I'd give her props for it.
10 years versus 30 days. Let me see Florida.
And funny thing is, the 10 years in the state that everybody's having a gun.
Yeah.
And the 30 days is... 30 days is in New York where you can't...
Florida.
I thought you two were chill now. Who, me and my kid's mom? Yeah, we've been chill for a long time. We still joke around a lot.
Is 7 consecutive years. Landlords that diligently monitor their property can catch and remove a squatter long before the 7 years have passed. At any rate. Yeah,
there's something recurring, right?
At any rate. Maybe we're wrong about this. Maybe you guys have more information. Let us know what you guys think about this topic. We want to hear directly from you.
What if she sold her current home with the plans to move into that home? We don't know her story. She sold her current home and she hadn't moved into the other one yet. There was nobody there checking it. It was just sitting there for weeks or months off the market. And she was just like, I'll just sell my home without checking my other one at all. Like, that's pretty dumb. I mean, it's possible that happened, but in that case. When did you become a rage bait center-right guy? After breaking up with Hassan or after people hated your Rittenhouse take? I became a rage bait guy when your fat fucking mom insisted on riding me cowgirl one time and sat on my dick wrong and crushed it. And then ever since then, it just hasn't leaned the same direction anymore. And now I do rage bait constantly. Oh, I think it was this. This is what I saw. Okay. This was on lay Reddit.
You guys are from California, though. Oh, yeah. No, we put a 24-hour notice of inspection, and I have a power of attorney. So we can come in and do an inspection, and there's nothing illegal with that.
No, well, the police are going to come.
Yeah, that's fine. We're coming in.
Right? Yeah, you got to go to court, though.
Yeah. No, okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, we'll see.
Is this in...
Look, let's just let the police get here.
Here's the deal. This is a civil matter, and you... He wants to...
We'll let the police do that.
No, that's fine.
This guy still can't be here.
Well, we're coming in. We're coming in.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone with the sergeant.
I have a power of attorney, so to do the inspection. So
doesn't matter. It still has to go to court. Still has to go to
Yeah.
the court. We were never served with a 3-day notice, dude.
This isn't a 3-day notice. This is a home inspection.
Okay, well, no.
This is a home inspection.
No, you guys already came and tried to bust in the last time. You
The
guys didn't make a good impression
sergeant
the first time.
the sergeant said I have the right to be here, so they can call the sergeant. We're coming in, you guys. We're coming in. Yeah, we're coming in. We have the right. So we're coming in.
Besides being a piece of shit, why would you not squat free rent for 2 years? I mean, that's probably why people do it, right? I mean, like, a potential downside might be like a civil order against you where you owe money. But I mean, if you're already financially fucked and you don't whatever, then who the fuck cares? Like, that's what I imagine their mindset is. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna press charges.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Take me to court. Take me to court. This isn't your property. You don't place. Yeah.
Are you on the lease? You're on the lease? Show me you're on the lease. Show me you're on the lease. You know you're not on the lease.
I can see some homeowner losing their shit and getting the shit beaten out of you not worth. Depending on the situation, that could be ultra worth. Imagine if you're broke as fuck, you manage to establish squatters' rights in some place, and then some dude that's wealthy enough to own a second property attacks you. That sounds like the perfect thing if you're a piece of shit who has nothing else going on in their life, to be able to sue somebody for medical costs, pain and suffering, a whole bunch of other shit, settle out of court for some dumb shit like... How many people in the video are squatters? Probably all of them, except for the people brought in on the crew. To do whatever these guys are doing. My guess is going to be that there's like a whole meta to squatting where you bring in like lots of people to stand on lookout to make sure that like the owners don't come in or people come in to change the locks or any weird shit like that. You're probably like always on the lookout for stuff.
Get your dog. Baño de la oficina. Métanse por dentro, por favor, para que empiecen a buscar el baño. Let's go inside. Dale. I'll move that car for you. Okay, go ahead.
What is the net good from giving provisions/rights for people who squat? Why should we even allow this? Like, who is the pro? I've already explained this. I don't know if you're just not listening to me. I say explain this. My guess is going to be is that like this is probably to protect people that could get fucked over in bad leasing agreements. So for instance, let's say that I decide to pay cash or I pay under the table or we have a lease agreement but like we didn't keep a copy of it or whatever, and I live in some property. Let's say I've been living here for like 2 years, and then let's say one day you're like, actually fuck you, I want this, and I'm just going to kick you out immediately. I'm going to kick you out today. So I show up and I call the cops and I'm like, hey, kick this fucker out of my house. I don't want them here. And you're like, wait, hold on. I've been paying for a long time. Like, you can't just kick me out. And the cop's like, well, do you have a lease agreement? It's like, well, I don't know. We like had an informal payment, and the guy's like, oh, fuck you, you get kicked out. So the squatter, the squatter's rights or whatever, or people forcing to go through civil court to solve this is probably to protect those types of renters that could legitimately be fucked over by landlords. But the issue, of course, is that people are going to abuse those loopholes, and that's probably what we see here when you talk about a traditional squatter, right?
I don't know.
Okay. We're clear. Yeah. Everything's safe.
It's actually just Democratic Party retardation, the group you shill for. Isn't it normally, wasn't it a Republican group that tried to claim that if they squatted on some huge fucking stretch of land in the giant Northwest that they could own it and take it over from the federal government or some bullshit? Haven't conservatives done that in the past?
Okay, the owner's guys are gonna spend a little time in there.
Okay.
That's it. If you don't have a lease or a message or messages indicating a clear rental agreement, I don't care. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's probably, the thing is, there's probably a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, but there's probably a decent chunk of people that informally rent from people. And you probably want to have a way to protect those people's rights, I'm guessing. Is squatting actually normal in the US? Probably not that normal, but there's probably places where there's like higher proclivity for people to try and do it. How can you prove that they have been paying for a long time? They sound indistinguishable from squatters at that point if they don't have a formal agreement. Well, if you actually go to court, that's where you would submit evidence and you'd have like, here's my bank statement, here's payments, these are going to this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like that'd be in court, it'd be pretty easy to solve. In front of a cop, it'd be pretty easy to fake, I don't know. You know? Wait, so how did these guys get them out? What my guess is these guys probably find a way to weasel their way into the house, and then once they're in, they just start removing like all the appliances and shit, so that the house is like not fun to live in. That's my guess. Is that what they do? They threw away all their shit, I think. Yeah, and so like couches and furniture and everything else probably. Wait, so are scenarios like the thing Admin Preach covered a problem, or are they just one-off rage bait instances? Both of those things can be true. I don't think it's like the most common thing in the world, but people do it, and it's pretty fucked when people do it. It's pretty stupid. Like squatting shit and bad tenants do happen. But it doesn't get a lot of coverage because, especially like on lay Reddit and where the internet is today, people lean really heavily in favor of renters' rights, and every landlord is basically a demon spawn from hell, so people aren't keen to talk about the other end of it. Wouldn't the best way to handle squatters would be to just show up with a ton of dudes and kick them out? Don't even call the police? Well, but the thing is, I think squatters can call the police on you. I think the best way to prevent it is you have to just figure out like how long you need to have like those rights basically granted to you, and then you just have somebody come by and inspect a property to make sure that nobody's there. I think that's all you can do, right? But what's the point of this? The choice for squatters is living in a house with no furniture versus under a bridge with no furniture. Okay. Here's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, all right? Clip me. Get ready to clip me, okay? You have, on the bottom of society, the poorest people, okay? You might have like genuinely homeless, genuinely fucked people, okay? You've got like no housing guarantee. So we'll say like home insecure. And then you've got like working poor, you've got like lower middle class, I don't know, then middle class, whatever, up to here. For a variety of reasons, okay? I don't want to hedge a million times, okay? I don't want to hedge a million things, okay? There are reasons why, and it's not genetic, it's not whatever bullshit, it's not because poor people are bad. But the problem is in this group of people right here, there are a lot of scumbaggy, horrible people that do scumbaggy, horrible things. And nobody wants to talk about that because they're poor, so people want to treat them all as victims, and they want to say like all poor people are the same, but that's not true. There are poor people that work super hard, they try to get by right, a lot of them are too ashamed to even ask for welfare. Like, there are working poor that really try their best to do what they can to give their kids a better life, to figure their shit out. But there are also people that live down here that are they're just like trash garbage people. They're bad people. They're poor and they're bad people. They're bad, horrible people. My guess is gonna be, this is a guess, okay? My guess is gonna be the people that do like the home squatting shit are probably not like genuinely mentally homeless people or like working poor people that are trying their best to get by. It's probably scum people that do it. It's probably scum people that do it. A lot of them just happen to be like white trash, ghetto, poor, whatever the fuck racial stereotype you would use. But a lot of them are just like, they're poor, but they're also like trash people. That'd be my guess. I'm super going by feels there, but there are probably some desperate people in there. Probably, maybe. And I'm also biased by the videos that I've watched too, because that's really my only engagement with this. I've never ran into squatters in real life. But like, I've never seen a video where somebody finds a bunch of squatters and it's like, oof, these look like retarded, or these look like mentally handicapped, super crazy, schizo fucking homeless guys that are trying to just like sleep in a place that they found. Doesn't seem to usually be that way. Usually it seems like people that they're very savvy when it comes to exploiting the law. They're usually dressed and appear in such a way that like, okay, well, you haven't been like out on the streets for fucking years. You're not like super fucked or whatever. Like it just seems like people who are trying to like abuse the system or exploit loopholes in the system to get like another place to stay or a nicer place to stay, or they're on some bullshit basically. That's my feeling from watching like a few videos on this basically. I could be totally wrong, but that's the feeling, I guess. Yeah.
And
is that an easy area to exploit because society as a whole doesn't really look into it? Well, my guess it just probably doesn't happen that much. And to change the laws around this would probably fuck over a lot of other people that you don't want to fuck over. But it's just when it does happen, it's pretty annoying. And it's also affecting a group of people that people generally don't care about, right? It's affecting a group of people that have multiple homes. So, yeah. How did left-leaning people become delusional about all of the car break-ins and mass looting / stealing stuff? Left-leaning people be saying that shit doesn't exist, which is a bunch of poison food. I think that I'm gonna give another feelings take. When I hear people say stuff like that, it just sounds like people who have been wealthy their whole life. And so, like, stealing is a really inconsequential thing because honestly, who the fuck cares? If you can just buy another thing, why the fuck would you care if somebody stole something? It's like way down there on the list of crimes for wealthy people. So when people hear about like car break-ins and shit, I guess it's kind of annoying, but like, who the fuck cares? I think that the lower down the socioeconomic totem pole you get, or at least in my view, stealing to me is up there near like, it's like right beneath or above assault, depending upon how much they're stealing or how bad you're beating somebody up. And then it's like rape, murder, okay? It's like, right, oh, and kidnapping will probably go above that too. I think stealing is a really big deal when you can't afford to replace your shit and when you only have a few things. Yeah, that's my feeling. So whenever people are like, oh, who cares if somebody breaks in your car, blah, 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 it just sounds like you can probably replace your shit really easily, so of course you don't give a fuck. Hello?
Hello, Destiny.
Oh, hi, what's up, babe?
There's I don't know how much is going to interest you, but there's a news report that they did an undercover where in the Metro Atlanta area, Channel 2 went undercover and like contacted an Instagram account that was selling access to homes for $1,400 a one-off payment for people who are trying to squat.
Damn.
So the mention that you had about scumbaggery is, I think, fairly accurate. And the issue, is it a major issue? I wouldn't say it's a major issue. I think it is one that does feel pretty violating because, at least in the Metro Atlanta area, according to a survey they did, they found 1,200 people, homeowners, who were renting, who had a squatter situation that they were dealing with. And I think also what's worse is it not only costs the homeowner a tremendous amount of money, but also like lowers the property value of the other homes surrounding it, considering the type of people who come. Like even just looking at that one home that you were watching, like how many people were in that house? Was it not like 20?
Yeah, there were a lot standing outside, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, just inviting those kinds of people into your neighborhood and the kind of thing that they're probably doing in that home, which oftentimes involves some level of crime and drug addiction, I think it also just severely impacts the entirety of the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that's bad. I'm not going to disagree with that, yeah.
Okay. So you said there should be protections for people who don't have any kind of rental agreements?
Well, what I said was my guess is going to be all the weird squatting shit probably stems out of those protections. Like, I doubt when people were writing squatting laws, it was with the intent to protect these types of people, right? That'd be my guess, yeah.
Right. The other issue that exists is that even with the laws and how they're placed, like, yes, there is a legal process by which people go through, but because there's so much backlog in the courts, the process is super extenuated and very long. So I know I said earlier that having a lease, if you don't have a lease, you shouldn't have any protections, but even a lease doesn't really help because a lot of these people just operate with fake legal leases. So they'll just write up a fake lease, and obviously the cops can't figure that out. So they have to go to court. And the court system is obviously backlogged, so then that process is expediently slow. So what would you offer as a solution to that, if any?
I mean, you could do harsher penalties for forging those documents for squatting, but I don't know if the solution is to remove all protections from people that might not have an official lease agreement or what that would look like. I'm not sure. But maybe there are states where these protections don't exist and nothing really happens, right? I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't this isn't an issue I've dug into a ton. It seems like it happens sometimes. It's pretty shitty. I just don't know how huge of if it's the most pressing problem. It's a pretty exceptionally crazy problem. So when people make videos about it and it does happen, it looks like crazy. Yeah.
Why should people who don't have leases have protections?
I guess it's at the end of the day, there's an evaluation for what kind of legal code you have, and it's usually to protect most people in society and make it well run and functioning. And the idea that somebody could evict a family might be so societally catastrophic that we feel like it's worthwhile to put protections in there, even if they don't have a formal type of lease operating agreement. I guess.
Do you agree with that?
I guess maybe all of this comes down to in effect, right? if tomorrow, if you removed all these laws, if, you know, like 1,000 people would be adversely affected and 500,000 squatters would get kicked out, I'd probably be in favor of peeling back the laws. But if you removed this and like 500,000 pretty innocent families were affected and like 1,000 squatters got removed, then I'd say, fuck, maybe that law should stay there.
But maybe the long-term impact of this is that it just enables or encourages everyone to make sure that they have a lease in order to be able to protect themselves.
Yeah, possibly.
And then this benefits both groups. You're thinking about the short-term impact, which may be devastating. But at the end of the day, I think we all agree everyone should be operating that way. It's like telling somebody he only operates based off cash, that if they're somehow hit with a, let's say they come to an agreement with somebody and they exchange cash with them, that should be somehow protected even though they've written no contracts or nothing like that. I don't think you'd ever want that to be enforceable in court unless there was some kind of written paper trail, right? Financially.
I can't give you any strong opinions here because I can only guess. I don't know, right? Like, what if it's...
But let's say there is like a loan. Let's say I say I loaned my brother $3,000.
Uh-huh.
Okay? There is no witnesses. There's nothing of the sorts. There's just an agreement that we've come to and no one can bear witness to it. Should that be something that's enforceable?
Well, when you say enforceable, I mean like you'd go to civil court to try to get your money back, right? But you would have to have some kind of proof, right?
Right. Well, essentially, these people who don't have leases or don't have, written agreements are operating with what is verbal with no witnesses, right? So why should that be enforceable?
For the reasons that I stated earlier, that there might be a lot of people that operate with these kinds of like informal leases, and that removing these types of protections might fuck a lot of people over. So like, let's say for instance, let's say there's like a family who wants to like let's say I've got a big ass fucking house. I've got like 3 extra rooms and I'm like, listen, fuck it. If somebody wants to pay me $600 a month, actually, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure for every single roommate agreement that me and Rachel did in our house, I don't think we had a formal lease with anybody. I don't know if that's normal or not, but usually they just come in, we'd pay month to month. They just like pay us money and they're like, oh, okay, fuck it. If somebody comes in and they're paying, let's say you've got like a whole family and they've lived there for like 2 years, do you think that the owner, because they didn't make a formal lease agreement, maybe for a variety of reasons, what if to do a formal lease agreement, you've got to like zone your property as like having an ADU, like a rental unit and all sorts of shit. You're like, I don't want to do all this shit, fuck this. So you just have like an informal month to month, they fill it out. Do you think that somebody should be able to like have those people arrested for trespassing if one day they change their mind because there's no formal agreement?
I think if they can prove that there is a paper trail of consistent rent payments, I think if they can prove any kind of messages that they've come to this agreement beyond just like word of mouth, then I think that's enforceable.
Yeah, but I think real quick on that there, what you just said, that's the issue, and that is a court process. A police officer won't be able to do that on the fly. You got to go to court for that.
I agree that we don't disagree on that process. I actually agree with that.
But that those are squatters' rights, what you just said, right?
Those are not squatters' rights.
Yeah, because you're saying that like they can't be tossed out if you just call the cops. They should get to go to court to prove that they've had a record of payments, which is going to be some minimum threshold time to stay in the place until like that issue is resolved. So it seems like we've kind of...
I don't think the issue is the actual process itself. I think the issue is the fact that the process is extremely slowed down by the fact that the recourse takes months. That's the issue. The issue is not the actual process itself. The issue is that the process is incredibly slow.
I don't disagree with that. But like, so then do you change the law because the courts can't deal with the backlog right now? I don't even know how long the backlog is, because I Googled like how long does it take to evict somebody, and it seemed like even in California, I think it was a 45-day average.
It depends on the place.
What? Oh my God! It depends on the place. Okay, true.
Shut up.
What was there was an A word I used? Average.
Okay. Anyways, what is the argument in general here?
Squatters' rights are abused by pieces of shit sometimes to try to squat and take over houses and stuff. But also that the reason why these protections exist is probably for good reasons. And there's probably...
What do you think the reasons are that they exist?
For people that operate like on informal lease agreements or some shit, you don't want to be able to be arrested for trespassing instantly or whatever.
No, that's like not the reason that squatters' rights exist.
Why do they exist?
Other kind of protections like if you can show that you've lived at a place and you've paid rent, you're not a squatter, you're a tenant that just doesn't have a lease, and there's still going to be stuff. Squatters' rights are all about fucking old school bullshit that for some reason wants the highest and best use of any property.
So you think that squatters' rights... Wait. So hold on. You think squatters' rights exist for old ass bullshit people that want to steal property? That's why they exist.
No. What I said is that it exists because Democrats believed that abandoned property should be discouraged. And as a result, if you're going to abandon your property, okay, and not going to even check on it in a year, This is the disincentivization to do that. Meaning, if you haven't checked on it in a year, someone could have moved in on it, lived there for 6 months, and have right. That's why it's there completely.
Dan is correct. The problem is that these squatters are not actually identifying as squatters; they're identifying themselves as tenants. That's the issue.
I thought that for some states that will have like the regulations, we have to be there for like 10 years or whatever. Sure, but there are cities where you can claim squattership. Can't you do this in like 30 days?
Yeah, in New York specifically, that's the one I most read up on.
So that's for abandoned property?
So in New York, I don't know specifically how it's done, but they're probably doing some hybrid of being a squatter so that they don't get evicted, but also being a tenant. So to be a tenant, some places it's as simple as, can you show a piece of paper saying that utilities are in your name? And you can do that, right? You can I could right now, without any consent from you, I could probably switch your power bill to my name. I could say, hey, I just moved in here. I need to switch it to my name. And I don't think they would call you or verify with you to check that that's the case, meaning I could go put your power bill on my name moving forward. And if you have a piece of paper saying that you're an actual resident there, basically the police, when they come to evict you, or not come to evict you, but when they, like you say, hey, there's some fucking weirdo in my house, when they show that piece of paper saying, hey, I live here, look, the utilities are my name, the cops are going to say, listen, this is a civil issue, we're not getting involved anymore. That's exactly what's going to happen.
And to be clear, just you are correct. It is 30 days in New York. You go from a squatter to a tenant after 30 days.
Gotcha. Oh, so it's ownership for... it's ownership for the 10 years or 30 years thing.
Yeah. No. So the issue that we had originally was that, but I think we both agree on this, the process is too slow, which then puts the huge burden on the homeowners and the ones who are renting out the buildings themselves. The thing that I was having an issue with is I think leases should be the standard.
Wait, what was it? You said homeowners versus people who are renting out the buildings themselves, or what do you mean?
In my understanding, most of the cases I've read up on were people who were renting out the place or folks who were doing renovations to homes. So it wasn't always the primary residence. A lot of times it was a secondary, but there were a few still instances where somebody was doing renovations, and so the home was like not being used at the time, and then somebody would slip in while the renovations were.
Oh, sure. I think the vast majority of like the squatting shit, though, I think it's for like secondary properties, like rental properties and stuff, because typically you live in your primary.
Yeah. But I mean, even the one with the renovations is insane. The idea that you're like updating your home or changing the floors and you come back and somebody else has moved in a whole U-Haul and you have to go through now a lengthy process, like that is your primary residence. That has to be crazy. But even if it wasn't your primary residence, like is there, I guess it changes something from a tenant landlord perspective, but should it really be that different?
Well, it sounds like your issue isn't with the process at all. You just don't like that the courts are kind of backed up. Assuming that's true, by the way, which I'm still not sure. But if that was the case, then I feel like it's fundamentally a different thing.
Well, I mean, the process is always slow. Then what do you do? Like, we don't see this changing. I don't think there's going to be a time where this is expediently faster. Have you seen courts get substantially faster with how they deal with these kinds of situations?
Listen, I was
like every time I've gone to civil court, it's always been a slow and lengthy process.
If I could, then the solution to this is completely, absolutely get rid of all squatters' rights and instead give those rights directly to the city, where if they think your property is abandoned, they can do something, they can try to notify you, and if you don't do anything, then the city can reclaim it, and then the city can sell it, and then if they want to, they can go and put that towards affordable housing. That's how it should be done.
But that doesn't solve the issue. That doesn't solve the issue.
It does solve the issue.
No, it doesn't.
If some dipshit lives in your house or is in there, it's like, hey, you're not allowed to be in here. Sorry,
yeah, but that squatting, that
story.
statement is begging the question. You're not allowed to be in here. That's the question. Are they allowed? That's the whole point of them saying,
yes,
like,
they're not
because you're talking about tenants.
They're identifying as tenants. How do you differentiate them?
Well, if you're asking me if tenant court should be a faster process, the answer is always yes, it should be.
But that's the whole issue is that it seems like we can't figure out who a tenant is or isn't without going to court. A police officer can't make that distinction, and that's where a lot of these like quote unquote squatters' rights come in. That if there's a disagreement on being a tenant, a cop can't toss you for trespassing. You've got to go through the housing court process to fix all that.
So I don't think squatters' rights has anything to do with anything of that. Like if I sneak into your place when you're gone for a week and switch electricity to my name, that's just tenancy issue. Now, should that be allowed? Anything? Yeah, but I think squatter shit completely.
You're correct.
Wait, hold on. Wait. What do you think squatter stuff is? Hold on, let me understand this.
Squatters' rights have to do with if a property is basically not taken care of, abandoned. Essentially, what it's designed to do is that if you come in there and you start using it and you've been there for a substantial period of time and you can prove it, and the owner has not kicked you out or notified you shouldn't be, and I think it's like 10 years or something, you get full ownership over the property.
You're talking about, our squatters' rights also encompass people that have like tenant disputes, or that's how they disguise it, but they're not really tenants. People will expand squatters' stuff to include those people as well.
No, squatters' rights is very specifically based on ownership. Tenancies is what you're talking about, meaning if I move into a place, you might say I'm squatting in this fucking apartment and do anything along those lines, but what you're really doing is you're an illegal tenant that has lied to say that you're actually doing it.
Yeah, the issue you're talking about, like people like getting ownership of stuff, the adverse possession thing, right?
Yeah, that is de facto what squatting is.
Okay, I disagree. I don't think most people use it that way.
Look at the definition.
I'm literally reading a website right now. Everybody uses, or not everybody, but I think like squatting is a broader thing where, I think some people can take possession of shit over a long period of time, but I think people that like sneak into houses and try to set up and say like, oh, well, we're here and we actually live here and blah, 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 because we've been here for 30 days. I think people call these people squatters as well.
Well, we don't have to think. We can just look up the definition, right?
Okay.
Well, hold up. Squatters is also for tenancies because it says that currently in New York, squatters can be considered tenants after 30 days. So it's not just about owning. It's also about tenancy.
Well, that's only because in New York, once you've been there for 30 days, that squat becomes a tenant. You become legal. That's different. Most other places don't have 30 days. They have very, very long things, right? That they have 10 years, right?
Yeah, but I think that's part of the argument of like the squatters' rights, that you can't just toss them out. So if you go through the court shit, you call the police, you do the shit, eventually 30 days will have passed and now they've got like tenancy rights. And that's why people consider these like squatter protections or whatever.
This looks like a complicated article. We got to go through here.
But I don't think it matters that much because I think the core issue here is that everyone here is pretending to be tenants. That's what they're doing. They're using fake leases or saying they pay rent. So what we're really dealing with here are people who are actually squatters, but they're pretending to be tenants.
Yeah, people that are abusing the protections for what should be tenants that don't have a formal lease agreement. Yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
And that's something that the police can adjudicate, and I think it's a systematic flaw.
Wait, you think who can adjudicate that?
The police can't.
Oh,
only
correct,
the courts
yes.
can.
Yeah.
And because the process is slow, that's just not going to get fixed. So the question is, how do you improve that? Now, we can't make the systems, at least the system that's currently in place with going to court, faster. So how would you even fix something like that? I think you'd have to have a registry and a very strict system that the cops could enforce in terms of like, so for example, leases are kind of loosely set up where the landlord could go by the bylaws and then have their tenants sign it, and that's all there is to it. But I think you'd have to have a stricter system in place that allows for cops to authenticate these things very quickly.
It's complicated also, though, Abba, because like around here, what people do is they do scams where they'll list apartments for sale that are vacant on Craigslist, and like you'll go check it out, and the guy will have the keys, and he'll show you around, and be like, "Hey, fill out an application," and you do it, and everything like that, and you give the guy the deposit, and you move in, and you're there for a month, and then all of a sudden you discover that, wait a second, the guy that you just fucking gave money to, he's just some fucking nobody. He has no, like, the owner of this place is on vacation right now.
Right.
Are you, as a tenant, do you lose your rights? You paid rent to someone. See, those are questions that need to be answered, and those are the kind of the catch-22s that happen as a result. So I would agree with you. I think we also
shouldn't have any rights to that property.
Keep in mind, though, real quick, when you say you shouldn't have any rights, what you're saying is, because if you have no rights, what you're saying is that you could be paying rent to somebody for 2 or 3 months, and then tomorrow the police knock on your door and your entire family is arrested for trespassing. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Or at the very
which
least,
is unfortunate, but that's what
apartment,
happens when you're suffering at the hands of a scam. It shouldn't be on the person who owns the property to suffer the burden of your scam. They have no part in that. Now they're getting caught up in something that you made a mistake in doing. Why should you have? Why should you have rights to anything I own because someone else scammed you?
I don't disagree that the property owner having the burden is unfair, but I just don't know. It feels like it's like the child support question. Like, can you have a financial abortion and the state always rules in the interest of the child? And it's like, well, it's better for the child, even if you didn't want the baby, even if you wanted an abortion, even if the woman lied about it, being on protection, you still have to pay child support. Like, it sucks and it's unfair, but I think that the protection being on the side of the tenant in those instances probably serves society
Wait,
better.
there's no way. Hold up. So let's say the woman has birth and she just puts my name randomly on the kid's birth certificate. Should I be on the hook for that? Because she's scamming?
No.
The kid
If you're not the
suffers.
kid.
The
No,
kid's
I'm
gonna
saying
suffer
I'm
for
saying like
nothing.
if a woman lies to you about being like on birth control or some shit. Not if she's like actually like forging the
No,
fucking
but
birth certificate.
I'm using my example. So
Okay.
let's say she gives birth to a kid, she writes my name. Now I say no, it's not my kid, okay? And the kid's now suffering because he's not getting my child support. Should we just let me pay because the kid got scammed?
I don't know how far we can stretch this analogy, but I think it actually might map on perfectly. If you have a child, this is my understanding, okay? We're getting a complicated family life, but my understanding is, let's say that you're with a woman, you both have a kid, and let's say that like 5 years rolls by and you're looking down at your wonderful little Asian baby and you're like, well, hold on. Me and my white girlfriend have an Asian baby. He's 5 years old. I'm starting to realize shit's not lining up. And you go and you do a paternity test. I think that a court, because you've like taken ownership basically or custodianship or something of the child, I think you can be ordered to pay child support until the child is 18 if you decide at that point that you want to break up and leave. I think that actually is how the law works right now. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but if you assume possession or the guardianship or whatever of a child and you're making payments regularly and you already moved past this question, I think if you get a paternity test in the future and it ends up not being your child, I think you still have a financial obligation, I think.
What should happen is
I could
this
be
should
wrong on that,
handled
though, but-
either by the state or by insurance.
That would be ideal, yes. The state would compensate you for lost rental time or whatever.
Or the insurance of that should be something that should just start being underwritten by a homeowner's
Well, but if you say,
insurance policy.
if you make it an insurance thing, then it's still burdensome to the rental owner because now they have to pay for insurance to cover for all of this.
Yeah, but if you
squatting
look at the aggregate of how much that would increase your premium, it can't be much.
Probably not, sure.
Right? So I think that would be a law that you would pass, is that all new home insurance policies would have to have that clause that if this happened to a property that you own, that that your home insurance company would essentially take care of it. And then of course that would be like you would be responsible for a portion of that as your deductible, so to speak.
I'll say I don't think it's right to justify to use like one retarded law that we have set up, which is like some lady writes my name on a birth certificate and like I'm like that I should therefore have to pay child support for a kid that's not mine. I don't think that, because that's a reality that we should have this kind of situation as well. I agree that it's an unfortunate set of circumstances that have befallen the family that have been scammed. But I, who's a person who's just existing, owning a property, should not have to bear the burden of the fact that they made poor decisions.
Well,
I understand what you're saying, but like
they
it could
didn't
be-
make a bad decision though.
Wait, Dan, wait. I'm gonna give my example because Dan might be giving
It's the
some
same.
other-
Mine is better. You could be the most legit tenant of all time. Of all time, Abba. You could fall for this scam, unironically, Abba. And like, is it fair to you
Wait,
that
what's
you've
the
been living
scam?
in a place?
Wait, what's the scam?
That,
What's the
like,
scam?
you move to Miami and you find a sick apartment and everything's good, and you talk to the landlord, it's fine, everything's on the up and up, and you've been living here for 6 months. It's nice, it's great. You've been paying rent to this guy every month. All of a sudden you get a knock at the door and it says, "Oh, sorry, you've been paying rent to the wrong guy. You need to leave today, and you owe money because you've been using this for 6 months." Like, there's no way that you probably could have known that this was incorrect. That's reasonable.
Okay.
So you would be okay in that case, like, fuck it, I guess arrest me because I'm trespassing and take all my shit to compensate you for any damage that I've done. And I've also been here for 6 months, and I
I was
haven't
going to
paid
give
you.
you could even do an example one layer removed. What if the guy that's renting you the property, what if there's a mistake in like holding companies or ownership of the property, and it turns out that the guy that you're renting from doesn't actually have the legal rights to rent it to, and he didn't even realize that, and another company takes possession and they're like, we're going to evict every single person here and arrest you for trespassing if you're still here or something.
Well, then your job as a tenant would be to sue the guy that stole from you to recoup the money, and the person who actually owns the property has the rights to their property. I don't even see what's wrong here.
Well, I mean, I guess you're creating in a perfect world, maybe, but like as a tenant, you probably don't have enough money to sue someone civilly. That person's probably going to be impossible to find or claim. He'll be judgment proof, as they call in the biz, and you're just going to be fucked. So
I agree they would be getting fucked. Yes, getting scammed means that you get fucked. I don't think it's on other people to have.
Well, that's
to
why
do
we
that.
have the safeguards,
Yes, but the safeguard should not be the landlord. The safeguard should not be the person who owns the property who's losing cash.
Yeah, it should be
flow.
the insurance company. I agree.
Yeah, it shouldn't be on them.
Yeah, they should mandate a law that insurance companies have to do this. But of course, the insurance companies go fucking batshit. It's the same thing with rent control in San Francisco. In San Francisco, rent control is a burden that they put onto the landlords. But listen, if you want to have this whole thing solved, put it on the fucking state or on the city. But they don't want to do it. It's easier to just say, hey, fuck it, have the landlords do it and have it be their problem. And it's a shit situation and it doesn't solve anything and it's bad across the board. And this is just another example. But yeah, it is a fucked up situation that if I leave to go on vacation for a week and I come back and there's someone in my house and it's like, you're telling me I can't kick them out right now? Thank God we're getting the law in Florida that won't be the case. But that would be a unbelievably violating feeling to have happen.
Yeah, but if you're gone for like a week
with your shit,
I think you can kick them out, right? Because most of these places
do
don't
they have
to
paperwork saying that they live there? Do they have a power bill switched to their name? Do they have a letter sent to this address?
I'm curious how often this happens. I feel like this is probably an exceptionally rare circumstance.
Well,
I think what's at the heart of this whole issue. I think what's at the heart of this whole issue.
I'm coming over. I'll see you in 20. All right, Steve.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm watching this video.
I think what's at the heart of this issue is the fact that this whole realm of landlord-tenant agreements is very much left up to the individuals with a very loose guideline. The registries are not always properly well set up. It's not very easy to track these kinds of things. And so because everything is kind of amorphous and hard to manage, it's very easy for scams to fall into place. And then for also a lot of these agreements to never be enforceable or to be authenticated through without lengthy processes.
Yeah.
So
I agree that it sucks, but it might just be one of those shitty situations where it just sucks. Like for hospitals, should you be allowed to turn people away who are dying?
No.
What if it's the same fucking guy every single month ODing and coming into the hospital? And you're wasting a bed when you know you could be like treating a better patient. You're wasting doctor or nurse time when you know you could be helping somebody who needs it more. And it's the same fucking loser that keeps showing up over and over again in the same hospital.
Hold up. Maybe I'm incorrect, but don't private hospitals already allowed to make that choice?
No, I don't think you can turn anybody away from an ambulance. I don't think you can say like, oh, he doesn't have money or oh, fuck this guy. I think you have to treat. I think it's like a legal fucking requirement.
Okay, well, if they're publicly funded institutions, I would say absolutely not. But if they're privately owned, I think I'm unaware.
Are hospitals? Let me check. Are private hospitals allowed to turn away dying people? Let me check. I don't know actually. Oh, this Quora answer says public and private hospitals alike are prohibited by law from denying a patient care in an emergency. The Emergency Medical and Treatment Labor Act is a federal law that requires hospital emergency departments to medically screen every patient who seeks emergency care and to stabilize or transfer those with medical emergencies. That's like a shitty thing, but I think it's just one of those things that as long as it's not too burdensome on all of society, you just kind of like eat the cost, unfortunately, which sucks.
Yeah,
there should be like
do the emergency treatments, and I think that's the extent of it. Afterwards, they can transfer them out afterwards.
But emergency treatments and stabilizing those types of patients can be expensive, and you're wasting resources that could go to other people, and it's burdensome to all the rest of the system. Yeah.
Is there a reason why beyond the law? Is it like an oath that they have to take, or is it some kind of agreement with the government that they have in order to be able to have their license?
Just a law, I think.
Okay.
But I think the idea is you don't want to turn away people that can't afford.
The reason why I'm asking is because for this example, the difference I might find is that they have signed on to a specific agreement in which they would offer that. I don't think tenants or landlords sign on to such an agreement. So I don't know if they should be held to the same standard as a hospital.
Well, but I mean, the argument would be that just by owning property in a state, you're already kind of like implicitly agreeing to the laws and regulations of that state. And one of those might be things related to tenants and squatters, I guess.
Okay. I don't feel like that's understood at all, but sure.
Well, why? Yeah, of course it is. I mean, you might not know it as a landowner or property owner because you didn't read it, but I mean, like, there's a whole list of like regulations and rules that we all kind of implicitly agree to when we buy anything in society, right? But property especially, right?
Okay. So keep going. So where are you going with this?
That the argument can be made that by owning a piece of property in a state that has rules and regulations, it's your obligation to know those rules and regulations, and that you implicitly accept those by owning property in said place. Much like if a hospital's operating, you implicitly accept that you have to treat patients that might come in who are dying, even if you don't feel like you have the resources or desire to do so.
Okay, what do you think about that?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. I've got an amazing I've got a good example. Choose carefully. Ready?
Can I just respond to what you said before?
Oh, sure. It's about this particular thing, but go ahead, yeah.
Okay, no, then go ahead.
Okay.
And then also.
Let's say that there's a family living in a house. Never mind. Give your answer. Sorry, it's too many. Go ahead.
All right. Couple things. The first example you gave was of somebody going to the hospital for emergency reasons. And so you're saying that's analogous in a way, but I would disagree because you can't prove that the people who are about to be evicted are doing so out of a state of emergency. Meaning, if someone went to the hospital, they don't have the right to be treated just because they're going to a private hospital. They have to prove that. None of these people who are squatting in these homes or taking over can even prove that, or they have to actually be able to prove that before you can make that hypothetical that you want to work.
Sure. To make it more analogous, it would have to be a hypochondriac going to the hospital or something, right? And they're lying about their life-threatening emergency just to get a room for the night or something, right?
Yeah, that does happen at times. And I think based off what you research, it's only in the state of a very serious.
Yeah, if you can determine they're not actually dying, you can kick them the fuck out. Yeah.
Right. So I think you'd have to have the same thing, and I don't think anyone who's squatting or in these landlord situations can prove that, or in the process of doing that. So maybe if they could, then I think you could maybe make that argument. But I also don't like it because I think it would pretty much undo the way society should function. So let's say this was the case. That because people are in a state of emergency, they should have rights to these homes and to these abodes. Well, then couldn't we just move the entire population of homeless people into homes that are not being managed right now? And they could all justify it by the fact that they'd have to return to homelessness?
Careful, you just literally stumbled onto one of the biggest retarded lefty talking points. But yeah, there are people that will, anytime you see on Twitter, I don't mean you're retarded, but there are a lot of people on Twitter that unironically argue that the total number of homeless people in the US is lower than the total number of empty units. So all of them should be allowed to just move into those empty units and take them over. A lot of people make that argument, yeah.
I know people might say that sounds great, but I don't think that works well. And I think that would really undo
I agree that's stupid, yeah.
Forget even unused homes. Even let's say it's the one with renovations. Like people live there, they're going on renovations, and because they're moving in while they're doing that, they'd have access to this home that someone else lived in because they're going through an emergency. I don't think that's something that should be okay in our society.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. Yeah, you're just looking at the downside though, but I'm looking at the upside for the tenants that maybe you would want to protect. I agree that the bad people shouldn't have protections. It's just hard to strip that away without also affecting the good people. Or maybe the people you might want to protect. I can use, I'm just curious on your take on this, and then I have to watch this before Dan gets here, or else he's going to kill me. Right now, okay, I'll do an incredibly personal example. Right now, I have an informal agreement with my kid's mom and her boyfriend and his kid. Okay, so we don't have anything on paper written at all, but I pay for that house. It's my house. I'm on the deed. She has no name on it whatsoever. We have no formal lease agreement whatsoever. But she lives there. Her boyfriend, his kid, and then my son. They all live there. Do you think that I should be able right now to call the police and say hey, can you go to this address actually and kick out these poor people? I'm on the deed. I can show you the name. They have no formal lease agreement with me. You should be able to arrest these people for trespassing right now. And those people
I think I'm going to kind of just ruin this whole thing. I agree you don't need a formal. I think an informal one works provided you have proof that there's an agreement made.
Yeah, but I think the whole issue is that the proof part has to go to court. That's the whole issue we're running into, right? For instance, I think we would both probably...
Whether it's formal or informal, you would have to go to court.
Yeah, but that's where we're running into the issue. Because I think you and I would agree with each other 100% if, let's say, court was guaranteed to take 2 days. Then we would say then the current system as is probably good. The only issue is what if that takes a month and a half to resolve?
Well, but right now it takes even longer. But yeah, that is the issue, right? So that's why I'm saying I think my contention is not that police should be involved or whatever. Well, actually, they should be, but it's because we don't have a good system in place to manage lease landlord agreements, any of that stuff. We don't have that. We don't have a registry. We don't have something that police databases could easily just funnel right into and then be able to check, right? Right now, everything is the Wild Wild West. I can literally message someone on Kijiji, say, hey, can I get a room for $500? I'll pay you first and last months, and that's it. None of that goes to a registry to be able to make sure that we have protections for the landlord. We don't have any proof that it's supposed to be a 3-month lease, none of that. So I think the issue at hand is that we don't have a good system in place to protect people. But yeah.
Maybe, okay, yeah, sure. All right. Well, hey, listen, I love you. I'm going to watch this video and then go down and scream at Dan for a bit. And I will see you around.
You and Dan have fun.
Be careful.